And he hasn't talked much since then. One of the witnesses called the FBI and said he saw Ray somewhere else and volunteered to talk, and they never came by to see him.
Is Renfro Hayes telling the truth? Can he be trusted? 2 days before Ray's trial began, Ray's brother convinced him to drop Haynes and get a new lawyer. Haynes had negotiated a book contract for Ray's memoirs, but he told Ray he would keep most of the $165,000. He would pay for his legal fees. So out went Haynes, and in came Percy Foreman, a lawyer from Texas.
I'm not the judge. I have a very able and capable and fair and just and learned and wise judge. And he was
In America, if you're willing to plead guilty, you can plea bargain. Your lawyer says you're guilty of a lesser crime, manslaughter instead of murder one, and since you save the state a lengthy and expensive trial, you get a lesser sentence.
Percy Foreman came to me and asked me if I would consider letting James Earl Ray plead guilty and what I would recommend if he did.
Percy Foreman spent weeks convincing his client to plead guilty. Why was he so insistent? Did he think conviction after a trial would land Ray in the electric chair?
We would have gone to trial, and we were going to ask for the death penalty. And under the facts we had, we felt that we could get the death penalty.
How did Percy Foreman get Ray to change his plea? According to one of his jailers, up until the first day Ray went to court, he was determined to plead not guilty.
If Percy Foreman had told him that he was going to burn right here in Memphis, Tennessee for killing Martin Luther King and going to the electric chair, that may have an influence on his thinking. I don't know. I don't know if that to be a fact. But I do know what to be a fact is he left us going to plead not guilty. And he came back and he pled guilty. And that sort of amazed me because I thought that he was going to do what he said he was going to do and plead not guilty.
The prosecutor is sure Ray would have gotten the death sentence if he had pleaded not guilty.
Well, let me tell you this. It took months and months and months to gather the evidence by many agencies, all right?
The state had a key witness, Charles Stevens. He said he saw King's killer leaving the boarding house bathroom. When the FBI asked him, Stevens identified Ray without hesitation.
There was a witness named Stevens who lived in the boarding house where Ray, under the name of Willard, had rented a room. And he saw this boarder who he knew by the name of Willard sort of hustling down the hall with a bundle under his arm, which of course we were prepared to show was the bundle which was found down on the street, which contained the rifle and binoculars and other items that had James Earl Ray's fingerprints all over it.
So he formally recognized James Earl Ray?
He said he was sure it was James Earl Ray. He saw him from the rear.
Today, Charles Stevens can't be found, and his testimony is in question. James McCraw was a taxi driver in 1968. He says the evening Martin Luther King was killed, he was at the boarding house on Main Street. Somebody had called for a cab. McCraw was operated on for cancer of the larynx 2 years ago. Since he can't speak very well, he agreed to dictate and sign his testimony. He says that on April 4th, 1968, he was driving for the Yellow Cab Company. He was sent to 422 South Main Street to pick up a client. He went to a room and found Charles Stevens dressed and lying on his bed. McCraw recognized Stevens. He had driven him a number of times before. But this time, he refused to take Stevens. He was too drunk. He couldn't even get out of bed. McCraw thinks he was in the boarding house for about 3 minutes. He says 2 minutes after he got back into his cab, the dispatcher announced Martin Luther King had been killed. Why did Percy Foreman, Ray's attorney not use this testimony. Foreman found McCraw, and his testimony might have helped Ray plead not guilty.